All these years later, I'm revealing something that hasn't been told before.
Paramount Plus has just made one of the most shocking and significant decisions in Star Trek history, and the fallout is absolutely massive. Starfleet Academy has been canceled after just one season, and according to multiple sources inside Paramount and close to the production, the cancellation is the direct result of a coordinated rebellion by original Star Trek cast members who demanded that Paramount stop what they're calling the excessive political messaging and woke content that's destroying the franchise. This isn't just one or two actors complaining. This is a full-scale revolt by Star Trek legends who have had enough and are using their influence to force Paramount to change course. The quote, "enough woke it," is reportedly what one prominent Star Trek veteran said directly to Paramount executives during a meeting where cast members from multiple Star Trek series confronted leadership about the direction of the franchise. That blunt, profane statement apparently captured the frustration that's been building for years among people who love Star Trek and feel it's being destroyed by creators who are more interested in political activism than in good storytelling. This is unprecedented in Star Trek history. The franchise has always had progressive values baked into its DNA from the very beginning with Gene Roddenberry. Star Trek has dealt with social issues, promoted diversity, and challenged viewers to think differently about humanity's potential. But what's happening now is fundamentally different, according to the cast members who are speaking out. They're saying that modern Star Trek has crossed the line from thoughtful social commentary into preachy, heavy-handed political messaging that prioritizes checking boxes over creating compelling characters and stories. Let's break down exactly what happened, who's involved in this rebellion, what they're demanding from Paramount, and what this means for the future of Star Trek. The rebellion apparently started building months ago when Starfleet Academy first premiered to disappointing viewership and negative reaction from significant portions of the fan base. Cast members from the original series, The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager started having private conversations with each other about their concerns regarding the show and the broader direction of Star Trek under current leadership. According to sources, these conversations revealed that almost everyone involved had similar frustrations. They felt that Starfleet Academy and other recent Star Trek shows were abandoning what made the franchise special: optimism, exploration, thoughtful examination of moral questions, and replacing it with divisive identity politics, constant emphasis on victimhood and oppression, and storylines that felt more like social media activism than science fiction. The tipping point came when Chris Pine quit the franchise and Patrick Stewart publicly criticized Starfleet Academy's quality and approach. Those two high-profile departures and criticisms apparently convinced other Star Trek veterans that they needed to take action before the franchise was damaged beyond repair. A group of Star Trek cast members reportedly organized a meeting with Paramount executives specifically to address their concerns about the franchise's direction. The group allegedly included William Shatner from the original series, several cast members from The Next Generation, including some who worked alongside Patrick Stewart, actors from Deep Space Nine and Voyager, and even some performers from the newer shows who were uncomfortable with the creative direction but had been afraid to speak up. The meeting was apparently intense and emotional. According to people who claim to have knowledge of what happened, the Star Trek veterans came prepared with specific examples of what they saw as problems in Starfleet Academy and other recent shows. They talked about characters being defined primarily by their identity categories, rather than by their personalities and values. They discussed storylines that felt like thinly veiled lectures about contemporary political issues, rather than science fiction stories that explored ideas through allegory. They pointed out that Star Trek has always been progressive and inclusive, but that it achieved those goals through excellent storytelling that showed diverse characters working together to solve problems, not through constant emphasis on division and grievance. They argued that Starfleet Academy spent more time highlighting how characters were different and oppressed than showing them united in common purpose. The "enough woke shit" comment reportedly came when one executive tried to defend the show's approach by saying it was important to address contemporary social justice issues directly. One of the Star Trek veterans apparently responded with that blunt profanity, saying that Star Trek should inspire people with a vision of a better future, not beat them over the head with political talking points. The veterans reportedly argued that calling for better storytelling and less heavy-handed messaging isn't about being against diversity or progress. It's about recognizing that preachy, obvious political content alienates audiences and ultimately fails to change anyone's mind about anything. They said that the original series dealt with racism through episodes like Let That Be Your Last Battlefield, where two aliens were fighting over which side of their face was white and which was black. A clear allegory that made viewers think about the absurdity of racial hatred without hitting them over the head with it. The Next Generation dealt with gender, sexuality, individual rights, and cultural differences through thoughtful science fiction scenarios that respected the audience's intelligence. Deep Space Nine explored war, terrorism, religious extremism, and moral compromise in complex ways that didn't provide easy answers but made viewers think deeply about difficult questions. All of those shows were progressive for their time, but they were progressive in ways that invited audiences to imagine better futures, rather than making audiences feel lectured or judged. That's what made Star Trek special, and that's what the rebelling cast members say has been lost in shows like Starfleet Academy. The Star Trek veterans also reportedly criticized the current creative leadership, specifically Alex Kurtzman, for not understanding what made Gene Roddenberry's vision work. They pointed out that Kurtzman's background is in action movies and franchises like the rebooted Star Trek films, which were more about spectacle than about ideas. They suggested that putting someone with that background in charge of all Star Trek content was a fundamental mismatch between the person and the job. According to sources, the Paramount executives at the meeting were caught completely off guard by the coordinated nature of this rebellion and the strength of the criticism. They apparently tried to defend their creative choices and their leadership team, but the Star Trek veterans weren't backing down. They made it clear that if Paramount didn't make significant changes, they would continue speaking out publicly, they would refuse to participate in any Star Trek promotional events or reunions, and they would use their platforms to tell fans exactly why they thought the franchise was being mismanaged. That threat apparently scared Paramount executives because Star Trek's brand value is heavily dependent on the legacy and goodwill created by previous series. If the actors who made Star Trek great are actively campaigning against current Star Trek content that does serious damage to the franchise's reputation and makes it much harder to attract viewers to new shows. The meeting reportedly ended with Paramount executives saying they would review the situation and consider the feedback seriously. Within days, the decision was made to cancel Starfleet Academy and to put other planned Star Trek projects on hold, pending a comprehensive review of the franchise's creative direction. The official cancellation announcement was carefully worded to avoid explicitly stating that the show was canceled because of quality concerns or cast rebellion. But insiders say that's exactly what happened. Paramount recognized that continuing with Starfleet Academy would create ongoing controversy and would further alienate both the legacy cast members and significant portions of the fan base. The reaction to the cancellation and to reports of the cast rebellion has been massive and divided. A significant portion of the Star Trek fan base is celebrating the cancellation and praising the cast members who spoke out. These fans have been complaining for years about what they see as excessive political messaging in modern Trek, and they feel validated that the people who actually made Star Trek great agree with their concerns. These fans are posting on social media about how this rebellion represents a turning point where quality and storytelling will hopefully be prioritized over political activism. They're calling for Alex Kurtzman to be removed from his position leading Star Trek content and for new creative leadership that understands and respects Gene Roddenberry's vision. However, there's also significant backlash from fans and commentators who see this rebellion as a regressive attempt to make Star Trek less diverse and less willing to address important social issues. These critics argue that Star Trek has always been political, that Gene Roddenberry himself was a progressive activist who used the show to challenge social norms, and that the cast members speaking out now are either out of touch with modern audiences or are allowing their own political biases to affect their judgment. Some are pointing out that several of the Star Trek veterans involved in this rebellion have made conservative political statements in other contexts, suggesting that their criticism of woke content is really about their own political disagreements with progressive messaging rather than about storytelling quality. This debate has become incredibly heated because it touches on broader culture war issues about representation in media, whether entertainment should prioritize messaging over quality, and what woke even means as a term. Some people use woke to describe any content that includes diverse characters or addresses social issues, while others use it more specifically to describe content that feels preachy and prioritizes political messaging over good storytelling. The Star Trek veterans involved in the rebellion appear to be using the term in the latter sense. They're not objecting to diversity or to addressing social issues, but to the way it's being done in shows like Starfleet Academy. They're saying that diversity and social commentary should serve the story and the characters, not replace them. Industry observers are watching this situation very closely because it represents a rare case of legacy talent successfully using their influence to force changes at a major studio. Typically, studios have all the power and can ignore criticism from actors who aren't currently making them money. But Star Trek is different because the franchise's value is so tied to its legacy and to the goodwill created by previous series. If Paramount alienates the actors and creative people who made Star Trek successful, they risk destroying the foundation that the entire franchise is built on. That gives those legacy cast members unusual leverage to demand changes, which is exactly what they're using. There are now serious questions about what happens next with Star Trek. Will Paramount actually make the fundamental changes to creative leadership and approach that the rebelling cast members are demanding? Or will this be a temporary pause before they go right back to making the same kind of content? Sources suggest that there are intense internal discussions happening at Paramount about the future of Star Trek. Some executives apparently agree with the cast members' criticisms and think that Alex Kurtzman should be replaced or at least have his authority significantly reduced. Others are defending the current approach and arguing that the cast members are wrong about what modern audiences want. There are also discussions about whether to bring in established science fiction writers and showrunners who have track records of creating successful, thoughtful science fiction that balances progressive values with compelling storytelling. Names being mentioned include people who worked on shows like Battlestar Galactica, The Expanse, and For All Mankind. Shows that manage to be diverse and deal with social issues while also being excellent television that critics and audiences loved. The cancellation of Starfleet Academy and the reported cast rebellion have created an opportunity for Paramount to reset Star Trek's direction if they choose to take it. They could acknowledge that recent approaches haven't been working as well as hoped, bring in new creative voices, and refocus on what made Star Trek special while still being inclusive and progressive. Or they could dismiss this rebellion as coming from people who are out of touch, continue with their current creative team and approach, and hope that future shows perform better than Starfleet Academy did. That path seems much riskier given how much negative attention the current situation has generated. What's clear is that Star Trek is at a genuine crossroads. The franchise can't continue as it has been, with disappointing shows, declining viewership, high-profile departures, and now a coordinated rebellion by legacy cast members. Something has to change, and Paramount's response to this situation will determine whether Star Trek survives and thrives or continues its decline into irrelevance. The Enough Woke Shit Rebellion, as it's being called in industry circles, might be remembered as the moment when Star Trek finally confronted the quality problems that had been building for years. Whether that confrontation leads to positive changes or to further division and decline remains to be seen. For now, Starfleet Academy is canceled, Star Trek IV is dead, multiple franchise legends are publicly criticizing current Trek, and Paramount is scrambling to figure out how to move forward with a franchise that's simultaneously one of their most valuable properties and one of their most troubled. The next few months will be crucial in determining whether Star Trek can be saved or whether the damage is already too severe to overcome. What's certain is that Star Trek will never be the same after this rebellion. The days of Paramount being able to make whatever content they want under the Star Trek banner without pushback from the people who built the franchise are over. The cast has spoken, the fans have spoken, and now Paramount has to decide whether to listen or to keep making the same mistakes until there's nothing left of Star Trek but a brand name that nobody trusts anymore.